Still work with filtered finite modules. Recall that we have introduced isocrystal, which is isocrystal over K0 as before. Is a finite dimensional K0 vector space. Equipped a Frobenius semi-linear map that is bijective over the module. Or just say equipped with a bijective Frobenius semi-linear map. Endomorphism. This is isocrystal. Secondly, recall that we have very important class of isocrystals over K0, which has building blocks defined as TRS, K0 phi, quotient by the ideal generated phi to the power minus p to the power s. R is positive, S both integers. Thirdly, let's recall that let's use this proposition to summarize. Let D be an isocrystal over K0 there exists don't put so complicated. So one, there exists finitely many strictly increasing rational numbers let's say alpha I rational numbers for all the I from 1 to S called the slopes of Frobenius, and then we have phi stable K0 subvector spaces D of alpha I of D such that D can be written as decomposition. So this is again finite finitely many non-zero terms. Moreover, if we extend the base change to K0 unramified completion, it has a basis from U, denoted U1 EM, such that for each J integer from 1 to M, there exists some lambda J with p-adic evaluation equals exactly alpha J, and what is this lambda J? This is in some sense the eigenvalue of Frobenius over EJ. In some sense, eigenvalue of Frobenius with eigenvector EJ, but it's not because Frobenius is not a linear map. Secondly, the summation of all those alpha I times dimension of d alpha I has K0 subvector space equals the Hodge number of, the Newton number of isocrystal D. Thirdly, alpha I times, so for each fixed I, alpha I times this dimension subvector space K0 subvector space d alpha I is an integer for each I 1 to S. One, two, three. Let me put recall 4. Recall 4. So for any perfect field small k with characteristic p bigger than 0 and any isocrystal d over K0 so the Dieudonne-Manin classification gives a unique decomposition gives a unique decomposition after the base change to K0 unramified hat in the form for sub objects d hat of alpha isomorphic to delta alpha E alpha having pure slope alpha and d hat alpha equals 0 for all but finitely many alpha. For each alpha equals S over R, rational number in reduced form, which means S R coprime, and let's assume also R positive, then the dimension of D hat alpha is K0. Unramified hat vector space equals R times E alpha. Actually, this statement has some problem. On the one hand, you said this is a finitely many non-zero, but then you said every alpha, it is of the form delta alpha to the power E alpha. And so for whatever E alpha integer, this would be non-zero, unless you define delta alpha to the power 0 equals 0, but I don't think that's what it want to define, right? Or yes, that's what it want, right? What is this? Is this 0? How do you define this? I guess to be compatible, in some sense, you have to define this to be 0. It's better to check the original. So article. So let's put remark 5. The alpha rational number for which D hat alpha is non-zero are called the slopes and called the slopes of D. And the dimension of D hat alpha over K0 unramified hat is called the multiplicity of alpha, or of this slope. We see that D is isoclinic. Isoclinic with slope alpha 0 if D is non-zero at D hat equals D hat alpha 0. For some alpha 0 in Q. In other words, D hat isomorphic to the power of this building block for some bigger level. So I really suspect This is by convention defined to be 0. Yeah. Which means there are only finitely many E alpha non-zero. This forces this decomposition to be a finite direct sum. Okay, that's the finished part of the recall. So let's go to the exercise today. This is actually also a proposition. So I have two questions, two statements. So if D is a phi n module such that as K0 vector space has finite dimension and Frobenius is bijective. Okay, then notice remark, this is telling that D with phi is already an isocrystal, but that's not all the structure because this is also a monodromy over it. Of course, it has to satisfy certain axioms phi n equals p n phi. So n phi equals p phi n. Okay, so first, prove this monodromy decreases slopes by 1. In other words, n of d alpha is containing d of alpha minus 1. Secondly, prove that n is nilpotent. Proof. So the idea is that, so how comes this restriction on, or this result on the monodromy operator? Actually, it is because we have a finer structure on the Frobenius, comes from the decomposition of isocrystal. And this finer condition on Frobenius tells us some information about the monodromy because this is a phi n module. So n phi equals p phi n. So that's the basic idea. Let's see how to write the proof. So let's say we take an element from this phi n module. Over K, so let's consider phi n module over K. Actually, this is filtered phi module over K, right? So let's don't too much. Let's just, for this phi n module n, let's just consider the isoclinic decomposition. D equals there's some d of alpha rational number of the underlying isocrystal. By the definition of d alpha, it's scalar extension to K0 ramified hat, so which is denoted by d hat alpha. It's spanned because this is isomorphic to delta alpha and then some power e alpha. So it's spanned by vectors v such that phi of d hat power r of v equals p to the power s of v. Right? Why we have this? Because recall that delta rs is k0 phi to the power r minus p to the power s. Right? So phi to the power r equals p to the power s for vectors in this space. In particular, we have this. And this moreover equals, so let's rewrite it. Let's first say alpha corresponds to S over R. That's the relation of alpha and RS. Reduced form. So now let's compute, because we want to check which alpha does NV lies in. So we have to check the relation of phi power and p power over NV. So the nilpotent monodromy operator apply on V gives you by the condition n phi equals p phi n, p to the power minus r n phi V. It's by iteration. And of course here is again r. And so this is because phi d hat r v equals ps v, this is again p minus r n ps v. And so this is ps minus r n v. This is the relation of phi power over n v and p power over n v. And then notice n v. So let's just conclude. So n v, because it has this relation, if it exists, if it's non-zero, how do we see? No matter it's zero or non-zero, it always lies in. Let me think. Yeah, this, so obviously this is in D because we have this monodromy operator over D, but moreover it's not only in D, but it should be in, we will satisfy this condition, so it should fall into s minus r over r, which is d of s over r minus 1, which is d of alpha minus 1. Right. So let's come to the second part to prove this nilpotent. So put you a sub-exercise. I'm going to write a very quickly proof. So tell me whether I made a mistake. If I made a mistake, tell me what's the mistake I made, okay? So I'm going to claim that because we have this right. And of course, if you apply n twice, then you have the alpha is contained in n of d alpha minus 1, and then contained in d alpha minus 2. And if you keep, because there are only finitely many, there are some, which means the alpha for most alpha, the alpha is 0 in our case, or more precisely, its base change to k0 unramified is 0. Yeah, after base change to k0 unramified is 0. And so there is this sum S big enough such that n to the power s acting on d equals 0, because when you decrease enough, then all those become smaller than all the alpha I, and so becomes 0 in that part. Okay. And I finish. So here's possible alternative proof. Suppose n is not nilpotent. Then let's consider this decreasing. All those are subvector spaces, right? And it's decreasing. If it's not 0, then it must be stabilized at some step, right? Non-zero. Otherwise, it's already nilpotent. If it's not stabilizing, then there exists S such that n to the power md equals n to the power sd for any m bigger or equal than s. And then let d prime to be this nsd. So d prime is D prime is invariant by n. Frobenius is bijective on D. Frobenius is bijective on D, and therefore phi D equals D. Therefore, any integer bigger or equal than s, d prime equals n to the power m of d equals n to the power m phi of d equals, by the condition n phi equals p phi n, p to the power m phi n to the power m of d equals p to the power m phi of d prime. Because p is invertible, so again d prime is stable or invariant under D. I mean bijective. I'm not even saying, I'm just saying this, because p is invertible there. Therefore, both phi and n are surjective on the phi n module d prime. Let's choose a basis for d prime, and then let A and B be the matrices for phi and n respectively under this basis. We then have a relation n phi equals p phi n, which gives BA equals P is sigma B, because n is linear, but phi is semi-linear. And then observe that if you take p-adic evaluation, determinant of BA equals 1 plus p-adic evaluation of determinant of A sigma B. And this implies p-adic evaluation of determinant of B equals 1 plus p-adic evaluation of determinant sigma B. But sigma B is again B by similar argument as exercise we have done before, so the contradiction is finish the proof.